What's up, guys? Gonna make a video, kind of just an beginner guide video on just like your most basic tips on having a successful lawn business, I guess. And really, the main thing that I'll highlight in this video is just what I do to maintain customers once I get them, like the difference that I do, what I think makes me different than other lawn guys out there, to where I keep my customers and they're not calling trying to get another person. Because I would probably say about 75% of my customers are brand new, like people that had a lawn service before and they just weren't happy with them, and they called me. And I don't really ever lose customers. The only time I've ever lost customers is if they've moved or they just said they didn't have enough money. So, but yeah, the main things, like just these are going to be basic beginner tips. So, I mean, if you're already doing a lawn business, this might not be too beneficial to you if you've been doing this for a while. But I figure I'll make a video to help out the new guys, because, I mean, it can be kind of difficult, when you're starting out. You might not know what to do. So, with some of these tips, maybe it'll help you to where you won't make some of those mistakes that get you fired, I guess, or let go, whatever. I guess the first thing I'll go over is like the weed eater. The weed eater is pretty important. I would say that 90%, well, pretty much all the guys that I ever hire to help me weed eat, they've like leave the chopping, where the weed eater is just like, they kind of go like this when they're weed eating. They're just like, and take chunks out of the grass, and that's just a number one thing that is amateur looking, and a customer sees that, they're, I wouldn't be surprised if they're, gonna tell you, they don't want you cutting their yard anymore because it just looks like crap. You can tear up their yard. It's pretty much just scalping their yard with a weed eater. The way I prevent this is I see a lot of guys, they'll hold their weed eater like this and weed eat. I don't know why. I don't know what makes people want to do that, but a ton of guys do that. They'll hold it like kind of at an angle and just weed eat with one part of the weed eater, which is stupid because you're cutting your cut path pretty much in half, or your diameter or circumference, whatever. You're only able to cut with this side of the weed eater now doing that. So you're going to have to weed eat twice as much to get all that done. And also, it's very hard to control that way. I mean, I can do it if I'm like on a ditch or something, or at an angle, but for a new person, it's going to be very hard to control the weed eater like this. You're going to take chops out. What I do, especially, I don't know about the other heads, but if you have a speed feed head like this, the best way to just make this look flush, just like a lawnmower cut, you're weed eating, you shouldn't be able to tell the difference between what your mower cut and what you weed eated. It should all be the same. So what I do is I just leave my head flat like that, and I mean, it pretty much will do the work for you. You just gotta keep your head pretty much flat on the ground. You're about an inch, you got about an inch right there, so you're gonna leave a nice cut, and you're not gonna take chops out. You pretty much just want to hover the head flat over the grass, and it's gonna leave, if you're coming along here, you just want it to be flat. You don't want to be coming at it at an angle. You don't want to be bouncing it up and down. You want to have control over it, have it flat, and just come along, and that'll make a big difference. I know that sounds pretty elementary, but that's the best way I know. Also, with the zero turn, if you're using a zero turn to do your yards, the main mistake that I see most guys make is they'll just do like a super sharp turn with your zero turn, and when you do that, you're going to tear up the grass. I'll give you kind of a demonstration of how that's going to go down. So what I did there was your 2 turns. The first turn was the wrong way to turn. The second turn was the proper way. And I'll show you the aftermath of turning the wrong way. If you can see that, see how it's been twisted a lot here. The grass is tore up. I'm down to the dirt. I just tore up all that grass. So if you turn the wrong way, that's what it's going to do. Here's another one. See, it just left that big mark. And you can imagine if you're doing a big yard, I mean, you could be turning, 100 times, or even maybe 30 or 20 or 30 times. So 20 or 30 of these little holes are going to be noticeable, and especially on real small, perfect yards. It's going to really, you don't want to do that. You're going to tear up yards. But I see a lot of guys do it, especially that work for like big companies where the guy isn't really doing it himself. He's just mowing for a mowing company, so he doesn't care. So that's what I see a lot of people do on the zero turns. I don't know why, but it tears them up. The second turn, if you saw, I just turn at a 90-degree angle, and then I back up a little bit, and then I turn the rest of the way. And that's how you want to do it. That way you don't leave any big marks and stuff like that. If you just turn at a 0-degree turn, I know it's called a zero turn, but you never really want to use the zero turn part, because if you do it, you're going to tear up the yard. So you want to do like I demonstrated and kind of just turn into it, back up a little bit, and then go back onto your path, because you're not going to tear up the yard that way. And again, that's just a very beginner thing, but some people might not know. Also, just an easy tip for saving time. What I always do, I'll keep an extra roll of string in my pocket. I know the distances that I need to cut, so I'll keep that extra thing of string in my pocket, because a lot of people, they'll weed eat and they'll run out of string halfway in a yard. They'll walk back to the truck, they'll get more string. If you always keep that spare string in your pocket, just a little cut of it, you can just swap it out right there and be back on your way in about 5 seconds. The next kind of big tip to keeping customers, I think, is if you've watched any of my videos and you've seen my equipment and truck and stuff like that, I'm personally a believer in having nice equipment and a nice vehicle to pull your equipment and stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to be a 2016 $40,000 truck, but having a newer model vehicle and newer equipment has helped me. I know now, I understand that not everybody's in the situation to do that. That's fine. It shouldn't affect you that bad, but there are some people who I think do prefer having. I think it just kind of gives my customers a peace of mind when they see that I have a nice car and that I have nice equipment, so they kind of just judge a book by its cover and think this guy must have a pretty good bit of money, so we don't have to worry about him trying to steal anything from our house, or they just feel more safe around me and more comfortable with me, especially in the beginning, knowing that I'm not just some hobo looking guy with a push mower saying let me mow your yard. A lot of my customers, they'll give me keys to their gates, they'll invite me inside and stuff, like to come through the house to get to the backyard, or they'll give me their garage codes in case I ever need anything out of there. Just stuff like that. Just making your customers feel comfortable with you. Another big tip for customers that kind of relates to that is Christmas cards. At the end of the year, I always send out a Christmas card. I think it makes a big difference. With a Christmas card, you can send them the Christmas card, and kind of just what I'll say is, hey, appreciate you using us last year. Happy holidays. Don't forget to give us a call back once the grass starts growing, and look forward to hearing from you. And a lot of times they'll send money back or something and say, hey, appreciate you doing my yard last year, appreciate the card, Merry Christmas, here's $50. So you'd be surprised I get a lot of that back too. But yeah, I think the Christmas cards help out a lot. I usually just put a picture of me with the lawnmower or with my trailer or something and say, hey, Merry Christmas, appreciate you letting me do in the yard, hope to hear from you again next year. And I think that makes a big difference, and it'll keep your customers coming back. You also need to be able to trim hedges. I know that's kind of an extra expense for some people, but I think, see, here's my hedge trimmer. I think trimming hedges makes a big difference, especially with high quality clients, because everybody has hedges almost, and they're gonna want them trimmed. And if they ask you, hey, can you trim my hedges, and you say no, I don't have a hedge trimmer, I actually can't trim hedges, then they might not want to keep you. They might go ahead and keep you mowing their yard, but they might get a different guy to trim the hedges, which you don't want that, because the guy might come trim the hedges and he might woo them over, and they might start getting him to do the yard. You don't want them to have any other contact with another lawn service like that, because you just never know that a lot of people are gullible to sales tactics and stuff. So if a guy comes over to trim their hedges because you can't do it, he could easily win them over and start mowing their yard, and there you are, because you didn't want to trim hedges, now you don't have a yard. So yeah, definitely, if you can afford it, get a hedge trimmer. It's about the same. I think this one was like $500. That's pretty high, I know, for a lot of people, but you'll make your money back in no time. You can charge a good bit for hedge trimming jobs, anywhere from $50 to $250. That's just minor hedge trimming. I've charged $50 just for little front yard hedges, and I've had jobs that are $250 that it was hedges all the way around the house and some in the backyard and stuff. So you can make good money with it, and it's an added perk. People are going to want a lawn guy that can do anything. So I'll tell them I can trim trees up and all that. Any tree that's, as long as it's like a small tree, smaller than 20 feet, something like this, and it's not that close to the house or something, I'll tell them, I can cut that down. You need to make sure, if you have insurance and stuff, that you're covered for something like that, and you need to know what you're doing. So don't just wing it. I have winged a lot of stuff, but I don't recommend that. It could be a dangerous situation if you don't know what you're doing, especially with a chainsaw. A lot of accidents happen very easily with a chainsaw from people not using them correctly. But if you're comfortable with a chainsaw and tree trimming, why not? Why not offer that extra service? You'll do anything. So those are your pretty most basic tips. You also, I offer invoicing. You're going to want to offer invoicing, especially for commercial accounts. They're going to pretty much have to have invoicing, but I'll also offer it for customers. Um, you know, a lot of people don't want to do invoicing, but it's just something that you really have to do because it makes it a lot simpler for customers. Just at the end of the month, send off all your invoices. You get some checks in the mail a week later or so, and you get paid. No big deal. If they want to give me cash, I'll accept cash. If they want to write me a check, I'll let them write me a check. Now, the deal with checks, if I'm doing a yard for the first time, this is also a good point I'll bring up. For a first time yard, you always want to make sure that they pay you in cash, or that they're also home when you cut the yard, because like if people, I had a lady call me today and she said, hey, can you cut my yard? It's over here on this side of town. I said, that's awesome. I'm actually going to be on that side of town tomorrow. What time are you going to be home? Because when I do a client's yard for the first time, I like for them to be home so they can show me around the yard, any type of certain stuff that they want, and that they're also going to be there to pay me is the main thing. When I'm doing somebody's yard for the first time, I want them to be there. I mean, unless they want to put the money under the mat or something like that. Some people will say that, hey, I'm not going to be home. Is it okay if I put money under the mat? I say, yeah, that's fine. If you want to put cash under the mat before I mow the yard, I check under the mat and go ahead and get the money. Don't assume that they left it there and mow their yard and then go look under the mat when you're done and there's no money, because you just got screwed. So, you always, first time doing a yard, you always want to make sure your money is secure. You want to have them give you cash because, you don't know these people. You've never done their yard before. You don't have any loyalty with them. They could just write you a bad check and, you might never hear from them again. Yeah, you could call the police and stuff about that, but, you never know. There's people out there that'll do that kind of crap. I've never had anybody write me a bad check, but just as a precaution, I tell people, hey, first time doing a yard, I only accept cash the first time, and I require payment before I do the yard. Or if you're home, I'll go ahead and mow the yard, and then you can pay me after. But if you're not going to be home, you're going to have to leave payment, because, I'm just not going to take that chance. But you say it in a nice way and stuff to where most people understand, yeah, that's fine. So yeah, that's pretty much your most basic tips. There's a million other things I could say, but that's kind of the stuff that comes to mind as I'm sitting here thinking about what are some of the biggest problems or obstacles to overcome when you're first starting. So, if you have any other questions, just comment in there. I'll be happy to answer any serious questions about any beginner tips or anything like that. So, thanks.